my church family. So I'm trying to figure out the mic situation here. Let's see. We'll just go with that. All right, cool. Yeah. I had two announcements for y'all before we get started. First of all, behind tent here, we have, first of all, there are three amazing opportunities for you to get involved in Bible studies this summer. Bible studies are great, not only for you to learn about Scripture, about how to walk with Jesus. That's fantastic and valuable stuff. In addition to that, when we get together during the week, it's kind of like a mini, church service. It's just kind of a chance for us all to, to vent about our week, to grow together, to learn about each other, to pray for one another around the context of learning Scripture. And so there are three great opportunities for that. On Tuesday nights, the men and women are meeting for Bible studies. There's childcare available for that. There's also a study on Thursday nights that'll be held at my place. And we're selling this book back here for $5. It's like discounted by, 75% or something. But we'll be meeting on Thursday nights at 5:45. And so anyway, I just encourage you to get involved with the Bible study. Second thing I wanted to mention to you, we have an intern. Hopefully, we're in the last stages of interviewing and hearing back from this intern who's going to come and serve with us on campus next school year. We're very excited about that. It's going to be a huge blessing to our ministry, to our students, a huge blessing to me. I can now have someone else make my own coffee. No, it's not like that. But he is going to be serving here. But I have a huge just request I'm just throwing out there. We have been trying to find him housing for the first semester. That would mean that he would have a space or a room inside someone's house where he would be, he would live, and he would that would be his home base for the semester. He would go out, work, on campus throughout the day, work with me in the office and doing all that stuff. But just a place to lay his head is something that we're asking. So if there's anybody in here who is interested in that, he'll need housing for both semesters, but right now we're just asking for the fall semester. If that kind of touches you, if you feel like that's something that you could help us in figuring out, providing, please let me know. Message me on Facebook or email me. Put something on your connection card, and we'll make sure to have a conversation. He's a good guy, by the way. So, all right. Well, today we start our second week in the series, The Lord is My Shepherd. We've been looking at Psalm 23, and this psalm that was written by King David, who is reflecting back on his entire life, and he writes this psalm that's probably the pinnacle of all the psalms, where David compares his journey in life as a sheep following the Good Shepherd. And so last week, Josh started us off by explaining to us what it means to refer to the Lord as our Good Shepherd, and that's what we're going to unveil each week. Not only just by looking at the psalm, but also looking at King David's life, the time before he became king, all the way to his last days, and how the Good Shepherd was a good shepherd to David, but also is a shepherd to us as well. So today, we're looking at verse 2, but if you would, could you read along with me these next two verses here. So let's read together this morning. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. All right. I want to talk about rest this morning. Rest is a good thing that sometimes we don't get enough of, right? And it's hard to exactly describe how good rest is until you know what it's like to go without it. Obviously, we know what rest is like when we go without it. Our bodies begin to break down. We begin to, have short-term memory loss. We just begin to operate slowly. we just get angry at people for saying nice things to us. When we physically need rest, it manifests itself pretty clearly. But also, I think there is a second kind of rest that relates to the physical. When our soul gets weary, and our soul doesn't have rest, and you know what that's like. You know what it's like to have gone so long in your life, just feeling like your soul is not at peace. It's just bouncing from one thing to another. There's jealousy or guilt or shame or pain, something that's causing your soul to be restless. And not a good type of restless that gets you up and going in the day, but just the lack of peace. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. You know, when I think about rest, though, my mind immediately goes to my daughter Penny. I maybe use her too many examples in my sermons, but when I think about my life, I think about Penny. And when I think about rest, I think about a couple months ago when Kayla and I decided we needed to buckle down on Penny's sleeping habits. You see, for pretty much a year of her life or so, whatever it was, it took us 30 to 40 minutes just to bounce her to sleep and put her in the crib. On top of a whole lot of other things that we did, we just would sit there for hours, sometimes in the middle of the night, just bouncing her. And our quads got so jacked, and our calves were, it's awesome. It's a really great workout for free that we did. But we decided after a while, we'd lay Penny down, and then at midnight she'd wake up, and for every 2 to 3 hours she'd just start crying, and we'd have to do another 30 minutes of bouncing, and it got to the point where we just let's just bring her into bed with us, and that was easier, but it was less comfortable in the bed, and it was just life was a little difficult. And so we decided, we got to this point where we realized let's try to help Penny figure out how to soothe herself to sleep. It's going to be good for her, and it's going to be great for us. And so our process of getting Penny to sleep at night was we had this, really long bedtime routine that we've established, where she has a bottle of milk, she has a really long, fun bath time where she can just play and splash as much as she wants. We get her into her room, put her clean diaper and warm pajamas on her. We sit down and both Kayla and I are in there. We're reading her stories and singing her songs. We rub her feet, we get her all tucked in, and then we lay her down, and everything, that's how it's supposed to be. And you can imagine that Penny loved this bedtime routine. People pay good money for this type of spa treatment today, right? And this is Penny's life. It's pretty awesome to be a baby. So Penny loved every bit of this routine in the beginning, except the part where we laid her down in her crib. Because as soon as we laid her down, she would shoot up like a rocket and stand at the edge of her crib and just wail and look at us like we were the worst people in the world, leaving her in this dark dungeon as we go and have fun ourselves. This was Penny's perspective, and for us, it was terrible because we felt like terrible parents as we walked out of the room, knowing that she was just so upset. Sleep training was tough because even though Penny had everything she could ever need, everything was taken care of for her. Her environment was so safe and comforting and good and satisfying. Yet for some reason, Penny couldn't lay down and rest. I wonder how often it is for us that we miss out on rest and the blessings that God has generously poured out and made available to us, not because He hasn't done that, but because we're too distracted by the things that we want and by the things that we fear, that we can't lay down and rest. Is it easier for you to find yourself in a state of worry at the end of the day than a state of rest and assurance? If you were to make a tally mark on your week, on one side, you'd put a tally for every time you felt stressed out and anxious or fearful. And on the other side, you put a tally mark for when you just felt happy and satisfied and at peace. At the end of the week, how many tally marks would you have on each side? Which side would win? Would it even be close? Josh and I have been passing back and forth this book in preparation for this sermon, written by an actual shepherd. And he, reflecting on his time being a shepherd, looked at Psalm 23 in a fresh new way. He wrote a book about it, and it's really insightful, especially for us who've never had to raise sheep before. And this guy, Philip Keller, he writes that sheep can be pretty stubborn. Sheep can be dumb animals, and they are just restless creatures. Even a good shepherd who responsibly provides for sheep leads them to places where they can be safe and satisfied. Even in this situation, sheep can be led into restlessness, agitation, and stress. He says there are 4 common distractions that sheep struggle with that keep them from being healthy and resting and being satisfied. He said there are these 4 distractions. The first distraction is tension. You know, inside of a flock, even sheep have a pecking order, which is really funny to think about. Sheep are always battling to see who's going to be the alpha male and be on top. And the weaker sheep get pushed to the bottom. And these sheep just struggle with this tension if there's no one there to kind of establish structure in their lives. Sheep also are distracted by the fear of predators. You know, every single night they're afraid that a dog or a coyote or a wolf or a bear could come out and just annihilate them, because sheep have no built-in defense mechanisms. All they know how to do is to see danger and run the other way. So they're always fearful. Sheep also are unable to rest if they have a lack of basic needs. If they haven't eaten enough during the day, if they haven't had enough water and are dehydrated, they aren't able to sleep. And finally, agitations. You know, sheep struggle with pests, and especially in places that are just full of bugs and pests. They are unable to sleep because they're so distracted by the agitations. Maybe you're already picking up some metaphors to your own life right now of how maybe the things that are keeping me from sleep kind of have the same effects that they have on sheep. Well, time and time again, Jesus tells us that following Him is not an easy thing, but it should be filled with peace and joy. So why is it that the anxiety levels of our lives look no different from the anxiety levels of the person we work next to, the person who lives next door to us? Is something wrong? Could it be that the thing that keeps us from perfect peace of Christ isn't our circumstances themselves that everybody finds themselves in, but maybe it's our own perspective? So as we look at King David's life today, maybe he was thinking of these same distractions of his own sheep that kept them from rest, and the distractions that came into his life. As we read through his life, we're going to see these distractions kind of coming alive and seeing the ways in which God led him through these tough times. So the first distraction that David felt in his life was the distraction of tension. Tension. You know, David has just slain the giant Goliath, and he returns to King Saul in victory, and the whole army rejoices. So let's pick up in this story where actually it seems like things are going pretty well for David. All right. So, verse 6 of chapter 18, 1 Samuel says this: As they were coming home and David returned from striking down the Philistines, the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with musical instruments. There's nothing better at the end of when I played soccer, in high school, and we won the game, and going into the stands, or going back to our bench, and we just had friends and family, maybe a couple. Just people that we really were trying to get their respect. They would come down, they would rejoice with us that we won. Sometimes that was a better feeling than actually winning the game. Sometimes, not all the time. But that's probably what King Saul and King David were excited about, seeing the people pour out of the city to meet them. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated. Now listen to this song. Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. And Saul was very angry, and this displeased him. He said, "They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom?" And Saul eyed David from that day on. The next day, a harmful spirit from God rushed upon Saul, and he raved within his house while David was playing the lyre. And he did so day by day. Saul had his spear in hand. And Saul hurled the spear, for he thought, "I will pin David to the wall." But David evaded him twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him but had departed from Saul. Man, what a tense environment, right? Have you ever been in a workplace where your boss actually tried to kill you because of how upset he was or jealous? I mean, I can't even imagine that. On top of all this, Saul's agreement with the person who went out and killed Goliath, Saul would give that person his daughter. And so they would be married, and that person would be a part of the family. So David was supposed to be a part of this family. Well, I'm just going to summarize this next part. Saul promised David his one daughter, and then for some reason Saul gave that daughter to another man. And then David was like, okay, well that's all right. And Saul was like, no, I want to give you my second daughter, Michal. And he's like, okay. And then Saul was like, but I want you to go and I want you to kill a bunch of Philistines, because secretly Saul was like, if he goes into this battle, he's going to die. And so that way I don't have to kill him. The Philistines will do it for me. Well, David comes back victorious. Actually, you should read that part because it's very descriptive. The reward, the way that David was supposed to kill these Philistines. It's kind of gross, so I'm not going to get into that. There's a really, anyway. It had to do with some disgusting things. So David comes back victorious, and Saul is kind of upset. So he offers this daughter of his, the second choice daughter, to David. So you can just imagine David in this environment. Not only is he working for a guy who wants to kill him, but that guy is also his father-in-law now. So times are tough. Times are a little tense in his life. For me, there's nothing more stress-inducing in my life than if one of my relationships turns sour. You know, I lie awake fretting over what I have said or what they have claimed about me, and I either just fret about that or I sit up thinking all night clever comebacks I can have to just put them right in their place. In both of these scenarios, tension keeps me from recognizing that God has blessed me so much, and He's given me so many relationships in which He's blessed me. And I quickly lose sight of what God's will is for my life when I find myself in relationships that are just tense. So for me, if I was David at this point, I would have probably left town by now because my boss was trying to kill me, or my father-in-law tried to, gave my fiance to another guy. So at this point, David is in a tense situation. But not only that was distracting David from God's will for his life, but also David was distracted by fear. David's situation was about to go from tense to downright scary. So let's read 1 Samuel 19, verse 11, and see how this situation escalated to the next level. It says, Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, that he might kill him in the morning. But Michal, David's wife, told him, if you do not escape with your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed. So Michal let David down through the window. He fled and escaped. And it says then that David fled to where Samuel was staying, and he kind of found safekeeping with Samuel, in a city far away. Have you ever feared for your life or the life of someone close to you? Has there ever been a tragic accident in your life, or the news that the doctor brought to you, and you just found yourself just completely mortified for all the possibilities that could go wrong? Maybe no one has given you bad news, but you're just that type of person who just fears that all the good things that you have in life could one day just disappear, and that just scares you to death. And you're paralyzed by this fear. You don't make any risk in your life, no matter if you believe God is calling you or not calling you. You just stay put because you're too afraid of what could happen. I hope you've not had that type of fear in your life. I know for a fact, though, that some of you have. For some of us, we're like those sheep in the green pasture. And everything around us is so good for us and so good, but we can't stop scanning the horizon for what could or could not be there. And so our souls are just so restless because we are just afraid of what could happen. This is the type of fear that could have gripped David as well. I mean, could you imagine finding out that the mayor in town was out to get you and put a bounty on your head, dead or alive, for tens of thousands of dollars? I mean, I would be afraid of that. I would be running. So while on the run, David fearful, he also faced a lot of serious needs out in the wilderness. There's a potentially big distraction for David here in his young life. On the run, David was forced to stay on the outskirts of cities and villages. He was forced to hide himself in caves and just out in the middle of nowhere and go without food and water and shelter for days on end. You know, I love those survival shows that are on TV now. I mean, they never go out of style. They kind of change a little bit, but they're just fun to watch. One of my favorite ones is a show called Alone. For instance, in this show, 10 contestants are just sent into the wilderness, into this hostile environment where they just spread out, and they have to, all by themselves, survive. They have to figure out how to get food and how to make shelter and how to protect themselves from wild animals. And the first few episodes are very stressful because they don't even sleep. They're so afraid and they're just so stressed out because they don't have what